yourself, but I'm sure all of you are here because of this seminar title, How to Open a Cannabis Business. Besides growing, there are a lot of other directions and a lot of other things that are opening themselves up. This is a new industry, we're laying a foundation here, and I was in the fitness industry for years and years before I came to High Times, and I was always amazed how the fitness industry spawned so many other industries, from fitness clothing, leg warmers, sneakers, everything was, and that's what we're at right now with the cannabis business. So Jen Bernstein, who's our managing editor of High Times, does a wonderful job taking care of all of the print that comes out of High Times, calendars, bestos, everything. She is going to lead this panel, and we got a terrific panel for you today. So everybody, Jen Bernstein.
Thank you, Dan Sky. Dan Sky is our editorial director, and he helps in overseeing the magazine and email newsletters. I am so happy to be here in Sonoma. You guys are awesome. We've had a great hub. As you can see, there's no shortage of attendance. We sold out of tickets, so they're, right? Yeah. A lot of people know what's up, and that brings us directly into what we're talking about today, which is how to get started in the cannabis industry. And so we have a very esteemed panel here made up of very diverse talents. And when I think about business, I think about our crew here. So I'm going to just pass the mic around and let them say who they are. First, we have Aaron from DNA Genetics.
Yeah, how you guys doing today? Thanks for having us up here in Sonoma. I love it up here in NorCal. Come up here quite often, and much respect to you guys for showing up and bearing the heat that we're going through.
Thank you. Next we have Leanna Held.
Hi, thank you. Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm just really enjoying Sonoma. I've been to a lot of events at the fairground, and I think this is my favorite one, so thank you, High Times. I'm an accountant with an office down in San Francisco, California, and I work with a lot of people in the medical cannabis industry that are working directly with the plant and people that have ancillary businesses. And I hope to tell you a little bit about the people I work with and about the businesses that I've helped in the cannabis industry today.
Y'all are going to need to speak up.
Awesome. Well, we will project into the microphone. Woo! Yeah, I'll just pass this right on down. Here's Aaron Justice.
Hi. Excuse me a little bit. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm the president of Buds and Roses Collective, and we are a legal dispensary in Los Angeles. I've also been an cannabis activist for about 20 years, and I sit on the board of directors for NCIA, the National Cannabis Industry Association. So, thank you for everyone coming here. Thank you, High Times. It's a great event, and hopefully I can help inform anyone out there that's looking to learn more about cannabis business. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Mary Tobbins. I own an edibles company here in San Francisco. I've been running that for about 3 years. I'm most well known for my olive oil. It's the garlic shallot cannabis olive oil, and that's pretty much what got me in this seat, I guess, today. It's grown incredibly fast, so I can't wait to share that. I also have a radio show out in San Francisco, City Boyer, which I think with marketing and stuff has really helped my business and getting the word out there, which has been lots of fun. So I'd like to talk about it.
Thank you guys, and thanks to all of you for coming in and joining today. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask just a few questions, and anybody on the panel who wants to jump in and answer is cool. And then in a little bit, we'll take questions from the audience. You can just stand up and talk loud, and I'll repeat it, and anybody wants to. So, that being said, let's get started. And that's what I want to talk about, is getting started. How did you guys get started in your business?
I'm born and raised here in California. I've been growing quite a long time. I've been we're around plants for a very long time. My business partner and I started, we've known each other for quite a while. I met him actually through cannabis, and I have to say, we decided to move away from California to go to Amsterdam, where we could start a legal tax-paying business during a period of time here in California where clubs were getting raided heavily, and it wasn't really a safe business to be in. So we started DNA Genetics 10 years ago in Amsterdam, and it's not the easiest road to go to start a seed company because you have to brand your product and brand yourself. But we've stuck at it. It's been very hard at times to be with the big boys in this industry, the giant seed companies. And yeah, we created some fine strains that have won the Cannabis Cup, and we have to thank High Times, probably the most out of everyone, for helping DNA bloom into what it is today.
I think I got started in the cannabis industry by going to Amsterdam and trying some of the phenomenal strains that DNA Genetics had actually bred. I think I've actually been going to the Cannabis Cups in Amsterdam since like 1996. And so sometimes when I'm talking with staff, I've been to more than they have, so it's interesting. But I definitely say it has to help. And I was working at Berkeley Patients Group in 2004. And I just finished doing a recount on the only touchscreen voting machines that Diebold had made in the 2004 election. And that was really fascinating because 4 years later we found out that our voter registrar committed voter fraud, and they put our medical cannabis initiative back on the ballot and we won. So that was really great. And we also debunked Diebold's voting technology, and they had to pay the most fascinating amount of $980,000 for our legal fees. So Alameda County takes medical cannabis elections very seriously now. But they came to Berkeley Patients Group and they needed to hire an accountant because at that time Berkeley Patients Group had 12 employees in one location. And they decided they were going to send me to UC Berkeley Extension to learn all about accounting and hire other accounting professionals to train me. When I left Berkeley Patients Group, they had 3 different locations and 2 business entities and over 100 employees in the state of California. So I left there and I worked in a law office that did mostly wills and trusts and like generations of estate planning and asset protection. And lots of people just kept coming to the law office wanting to hire me for other projects. So the law office became a medical cannabis business law office. In 2009, it just got really busy. And I started Beyond Unlimited, which is basically an accounting and human resources company that helps people in the medical cannabis industry and does business consulting all the time. So that's kind of how I started my business, and now I just had the pleasure of being hired by a lawyer who had a client that was being charged with cultivating and profiting off of over 3,000 plants and over 250 pounds of cannabis. And I got to sit down and figure out the 3 years of that collective and everything they've done financially and turn over my information not only to our expert witness, but to the district attorney, who decided the day of jury trial he wasn't interested in prosecuting the case and dismissed the charges. That's just a little bit about how I got started in the medical cannabis industry, and it couldn't have started without my friends going to Amsterdam and being influenced by that and smoking great genetics of people who breed seeds like Aaron sitting right next to me.
Yeah, so I've always pretty much been an entrepreneur, and back in about 1997, I became a medical cannabis activist, and I started going to High Times Cannabis Cups in Amsterdam, normal conferences, different trade shows, and I immediately started a hemp clothing company called J-Wear, and I knew that I wanted to follow my passion. One big reason for that, I won Best New Hemp Product, and it was featured in High Times magazine. I was only about 20 years old, and that was great. And then on top of it, with the learning about activism and mass incarceration and things like this, it just gave me a purpose in life, so I could be, an entrepreneur, but still help change the world on a social level. And so we were kind of involved with cannabis. I was living in Illinois, but I was traveling around the country and outside of the country for a while. But about 7 years ago, my best friend and I started going to conferences again and trying to learn about what was going on in the medical with dispensaries in California. And we hooked back up with our old friend Kyle Cushman, who we met in 1998 at the High Times Cannabis Cup when he was first hired at High Times magazine. And we reconnected with him. We started helping him in California develop organic cultivation. And then I really want to get this medicine to the people and to the patients, and that's where I could be an activist and give back and build a company that people could believe in. And so in 2010, I found a dispensary in Los Angeles where I was able to join the board of directors. They were almost bankrupt, and become president of that collective. And in the last 4 years, we've just built it through the quality of medicine we have, the quality of care, doing these cannabis cups and winning awards because we're proud of what we cultivate. And that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. So, thank you.
I figured out a long time ago that I had two loves, and one was to cook and create things and make it art, and the other was marijuana and pot. And I've been selling pot since I was like 15. Sorry, is that better? Oh, that's a lot better. I should know this having a radio show, huh? Anyway, so I started throwing underground dinner parties, and I started making this olive oil. Originally, I was doing community service, and I had to volunteer over at a cancer institute until that kind of changed the way I thought about things. And I saw all these women just not being able to eat things that they love, and just the idea of brownies and things are very hard for someone that's going through, treatment and whatnot. So I started making this olive oil and wanted to write a cookbook for cancer patients that would have this olive oil readily available for them to use. Cooking was more of an idea of therapy, and that they could also get their medicine at the same time. The olive oil took off so fast that I couldn't even write my cookbook. That's still on the shelf. I still haven't gotten to it. I then went to HempCon down in LA and went with Super Closets. I was lucky enough to have that connection and go down and check out what this whole cannabis world was like. And that was in April of 2009. And I went and I took a bunch of samples of my olive oil and like these little black and white flyers that were so sad looking next to Super Closet stuff because I had no idea they had the premier booth at HempCon. So it was a little bit bigger than I thought. So I took my olive oil around and gave samples to all the vendors and asked them to give me their opinion. And I was really trying to just test marketing and seeing if I even belonged, in this industry or if I had what it took to stay there. I then heard back immediately the next day. They came back to our booth and was like, keep it up, don't stop, you have a good thing going here. So I rode the Amtrak train all the way back to Fresno, because that's where I was living at the time. And I stepped off the train and went straight to City Hall and got my business license, and realized that this was something that I continually wanted to pursue. So then I started traveling up to San Francisco a lot and bringing my olive oil into places like the Vapor Loop. And I kind of got laughed at because my packaging was a little off. And they wouldn't exactly try anything. It was kind of more like this mafia thing is what I thought it was, because they would only take things from their growers. They already had this whole setup where they had their trim, their olive oil, their butter, their edibles, everything came from just one grower. Or whoever they had set up in their shop. So it was a bit discouraging. But they also told me what I needed to fix. And I think that listening and asking questions are going to get you a lot further in this industry, because it just kind of kept taking off from there. I made those modifications. I did what I was told. And I went into Exactly 420, which is located over on Howard Street. And ended up talking to this guy in a t-shirt and hat and sneakers. And he's like, trying to sell me bud and asking me all these questions. And of course, I'm asking him questions, but I don't tell him my intentions or what I'm up to. I just kind of I figured he's just another bud tender, and that was awful at that time. But when you talk to so many people, sometimes you just wanted to get straight to the owner, which, anyway, he turned out being the owner, and we made good friends. And he, let that information to me as much as I did to him. And after that, we grew a relationship. And I started going into that dispensary a lot and getting to know everyone that worked there, and kind of made it my home base. And that's where I first started selling my olive oil. And then I started doing sampling and things, and doing the radio show, getting into any type of publication where your name is in writing or your business. I think that marketing is just really important in this, but you have to stay true to yourself. And it's got me judging for High Times and sitting here talking about my business. And I continue to want to grow. My company is getting bigger and bigger by the day. And it's kind of interesting to start hiring your friends to work for you and paying them. and having them help you pack it, like thousands of packets of olive oil, overnight. And it sure is fun judging for you guys. I really like traveling around. Colorado was awesome. We just got back from Denver right before this cup, and that's been my favorite so far. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll do it.
Get
There's
it.
so much to do.
Yeah,
There's so much
too much. Oh, too much to do. It's always the case in too little time. So I want to get as many questions in as possible. So I don't know. Do we have any questions right off the bat? Stand up.
How are you guys getting around banking issues?
The question is, how are you getting around the banking issues?
It's been difficult. We had merchant processing where we could take credit cards and there would be like one company in the country at a time that would do it. That is no longer the case. You can still apply and take credit cards, but you may have to not tell the whole truth. And if they find out, it could come back to bite you. But there are new innovative ways that are similar to like just gift cards and debits and things like that. So that's the way we get around merchant processing. But our percentage of credit cards that are used is way lower than when we just took regular credit cards. As far as the banks, you really need to look locally. And network. Like one of the benefits of being on trade associations is getting advice from people that really know, have the in their market or their area. So I reached out to the merchant processor that we used to see if there were any banks in my area, and we did get one. Some of the larger banks, you may be able to open an account online. You never want to lie, but you might not say specific details. And that could work, but it might only work for a while. So I recommend having multiple bank accounts. It's a pain. These are just some of the barriers that are put in front of us that we have to overcome that most businesses do not. But that would be my recommendation. Get multiple accounts, look locally, and try to sneak in. But the truth is, I cannot go into my bank with this t-shirt on. I literally have to turn it inside out, wear a sweatshirt when it's 90 degrees. And that's, second class, being treated poorly, but that's what we go through. And that's just one thing.
Stand up.
I just want to say, just get a really good CPA. Get somebody that knows their books and knows what they're doing, somebody that you can trust.
What? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Just that it's important to get somebody you can trust to do your books, because when it comes down to it, like that's what's going to be looked at. So just someone you know and trust and that can give you good, solid advice. That's my advice.
I'm confused on the whole, where your business is supposed to be nonprofit, and then how you, maybe you just touch on that.
So in California, you're not allowed to make a profit off of medical cannabis sales. That's basically the gist of the way the law is set up. But what you are allowed to do is reimburse yourself for the labor and the expenses that go into producing the cannabis. And that's what it comes down to, is really keeping good books, keeping good records. That was one of the faults why I definitely looked at seeing the two most services that medical cannabis businesses need is we're accounting and human resources, because it's about the labor and the people that you employ. It's about the job descriptions that you write, and it's about making sure that you have the money and that you know exactly what's the difference between a cost of goods sold and what's the difference between an ordinary necessary business expense, and what are my costs associated with selling a Schedule I and Schedule II drug.
So out of all the banks you went to and tried this and that, there's not like an independent little bank somewhere that's going to overlook all of this?
Well, actually, yes, we did find a bank, and it's more. My advice would be look at banks that aren't that are based in Asia, that aren't so influenced by the Department of Justice and what the U.S. has to say.
Thank you.
Stand up.
I got two questions, if I may. One question is, I'm curious about the size of your companies, both in terms of gross sales and number of employees you have, if you're willing to share that. And my second question is, so much of the genesis of this industry is small scale, local, grassroots, mom and pop. And as things become more and more legal, the corporate vultures are out there licking their chops. And I'm just wondering, you know, as your businesses grow, you know, I heard you mention something about being in the nest with the big seed companies. You know, when those seed companies are ready to buy your company, or when Nabisco is ready to buy your olive oil company, you know, how do you feel that you might handle that?
All right, so there's two questions. The first question is about growth, size of company, etc. The second question is about corporate buyouts.
First question was.
Growth. How
Growth.
big?
We
How
started
big
off
how big are you now?
in 2000.
Employees and
Right, we started off in 2004 with just myself and my business partner Dawn and my wife. And it was a rough road in Amsterdam. It cost a lot of money. And now we employ about 12 people who are paid on the books. We pay our taxes. We're a legal company in Europe. And yeah, and to be a business, you have to have all your ducks in the right rows. You have to have everything shown. Everything's on the books, because in time, when we're one of the big seed companies now, but at the time we were like the two dudes from California and the pot smokers, you know. But now you have now big business is definitely stepping in, and if you don't have all your books right, and if you do want to sell your business is not worth anything. So you have to structure your company right. You know, we own a company. We have a company that owns our company, a holding company, and to protect ourselves and to protect our assets, and it's an easier way to buy buildings and stuff like that is have your holding company own everything, because then it's your company, but you don't really have to pay a tax back on that money. Yeah, it's just grown where, you know, we have offices in Spain right now. We just opened up a store in Chile. You know, we're waiting for this legal thing to happen here in California in the United States. I mean, soon you'll see us in Colorado and Arizona. I mean, all these places are in the works, but really when you see a DNA package that's everywhere in the United States, it's going to be when it's legal, and hopefully it's 2 years from now.
When I took over the dispensary in 2010, they had done 40,000 in sales the year prior. We'll do 7 figures again this year, and we've grown year after year. We do not advertise that much. We do get a lot of earned media, but I feel we could do 10, 20, 30 times the amount of business, so we really do not focus on growing our business to more and more sales. It just happens naturally. We more try to be efficient and comply with the law. So 50% of my time is spent doing local activism. If you're a dispensary operator in California, you really need to track the latest court case that's out there. You may have to file and pay for an amicus brief, which is kind of your opinion before the judge makes a decision, because those decisions affect us locally. So I'm also on the steering committee of GLACA, the Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance, and we're constantly having to meet with city officials, state officials, even federal officials, because there are no guidelines. We don't know how to operate, and we're just looking for clarity. But as we grow our business, we're just really focused on growing our brand and what we stand for, so we can expand when the time comes, and just kind of like planting the seeds for our other businesses. But growth cannot be our main focus whatsoever in California right now.
So when I started my company, it was a really small company. It was a part-time job that I did when clients came to the law office with needs that didn't fit in the law office that I could still do. And now I was just sitting here trying to figure out how many people, it's so hard to say that I have a lot of contractors that I hire. And now, for example, I rent office space in San Francisco where you can watch ships come in and out of the port of Oakland as you overlook the Bay Bridge. And so I've come a long way. But what's really going to put businesses in a sense where like Nabisco or some other company wants to buy them is by having robust financials, having financials that they really understand, and the substantiation behind those financials, and not having a lot of liabilities. I mean, there's liabilities that pierce the corporate shield all the time in medical cannabis corporations, so that's definitely staying on top of your sales tax. The state of California is not giving you a 10% loan to grow your business. They want that money remitted right now. Not have penalties because those aren't deductible. Pay your employees. Trimmers are not contractors. If you tell them when to show up and what to trim and how to trim your plants, they're not contractors, they're your employees. So employee liabilities are like 183% of what you pay the employee. So if you pay someone $1,000 a week to come in and trim your plant, and all of a sudden they have a dispute and they go to the Fair Labor Board, you're going to be paying $1,800 each time you pay them $1,000 on top of it. So if you have a lot of liabilities like that, your company's not going to look as attractive as your neighbor's company or the company that someone else is trying to sell to that big corporation. There's just so much going on, and really understand it and hire professionals that understand it and that you can work with. Because so many times I see people and they hired like this lawyer because they were great, but they didn't understand what that lawyer was saying, or they didn't like the way that lawyer talked to them, and it just didn't work. Like, okay, well then you need to go lawyer shopping, and maybe you don't need that lawyer, but you need someone you can talk to, or you need an expert, or you need to hire someone. So I just really say there's a lot of experts who've been in this business for a long time, and hire the right person to help you out.
I think that branding is really important, and also KISS, keep it simple, stupid, good old engineering term, but I think keeping things simple and getting your name out there, making sure people know who you are, and standing behind your craft, and just really producing something that is your very best, and being humble about it. I think that I've grown more by word of mouth, and I'm shipping my olive oil to New York, to Florida, to Montana. I've got everyone aging from 18 to 72 that is, continuously just keeping and sending out for packets. I moved from an olive oil bottle into individual olive oil packets that have been really easy to distribute, which I think has also helped grow my name. And as far as the Nabisco or the greater buyout, this has been a question that a lot of my friends have asked, especially as they've seen how fast I've grown. And that's kind of hard because I've always been an entrepreneur myself, and I'm very creative, and I have all kinds of wonderful ideas. And if I could still sit on the board for Mary Toppins and it was a good enough price, but I could still be involved and still have a stake in the company, I might sell, sure, but I would have to have stipulations for that. And it's definitely an idea that's on the table, but not something I want to do anytime soon, because I still very much enjoy what I do, and I think that's really important.
Question for you, please. Certain states you're shipping to, do you have to make sure the law's okay in that state?
Should probably not have said that, huh? That was probably not a great idea, so, or at least that last comment. But I will tell you this.
Strike that.
Yeah, strike that from your ears. Just be careful. I do check for those kind of things in the states that they do exist. But I do background checks for all the other customers.
We have Mila here from Amsterdam. Mila is the creator of the Pollinator, and she's the queen of hash. Mila. I mean, I'm always impressed with Mila's story and history, and she came up with a great idea. So I'm wondering if any of you guys need any advice. Mila can take it, or any of you, if you have an idea for a great product or something new for the cannabis community, how do you?
I have a great story about Mila's product.
Yeah.
In 1999, I'd been like working out, and the gym had this sign like, "Do you want to go to a trek through India?" So I went there in June, and I went on this huge trek, and I realized that my flight went through Amsterdam with like an 8-hour layover. And I also realized in the Himalayas they had all these great cannabis fields. And I was just there in June, and if I came back right before the Cannabis Cup in October, and I planned my flight, so I went back through Amsterdam, I'd have a couple hours where I could go to Mila's shop. I could go buy her the isolator bags, and I could write into my contract with the trekking company that I wanted a 5-gallon bucket, and that I wanted a rest day where there was snow, and I wanted some burlap sacks. So pretty much I went on this mule trek. It was me, 2 mule men, 3 mules, a cook, a cook's helper, and a guide. And every time we saw cannabis fields, I would stop the mules in the whole menagerie, and we would collect as many plants as we could. And they thought I was crazy. And the morning of our rest day, I got up bright and early. I went and tracked down my cannabis plants, and I was always very curious where they were every day. So I didn't want those misplaced. And I got the cooking bucket, or the 5-gallon bucket, and I got the parachute bags, and I got some snow. And then they're all looking at me like, what is this woman doing? And they sent the cook's helper out there to like make hash the rest of the day, so that I was able to make hash at like 14,000 feet in October or November. And then I was able to fly to Amsterdam to the Cannabis Cup, and I think that was the year that they honored Mila, and it was like the Goddess Cup, and I was there. It was really fun. So that's my story about I love it. I mean, the cannabis, I'd gone the year, when I went in June, it was like, you know, we'd meet a lot of people that were traveling and we'd be able to smoke cannabis. But it was always like my boyfriend was there and he could talk to the people and then he could pass me the cannabis pipe. So the guides now knew that I liked hash and that I was pretty much into the charas. So they would try, but they just weren't assertive enough for a woman of my cannabis smoking needs. And so I would definitely be like, yeah, no, I have to sit by the campfire and you have to pass me the chillin' too, and with, you know, not speaking the language. And they were like, whoa, we've never seen a woman smoke hash.
But just a brief story, because this is about business. I started my business 20 years ago with 5,000 guilders. In Holland, you cannot get a loan for anything. More close? Okay. Did you hear what I said earlier? Okay, I'll start from the beginning. I started my business 20 years ago, pollinator company with 5,000 guilders in my pocket. We made 5 pollinators out of that, and then the first one was shown at, in Amsterdam at the KGB, where that's what they were called then, with Adam. Yeah. And Rob Clark was there. There was a lot of people there, and it was the first machine that was not manual. There was a machine to separate the crystals. Anyway, it took off from there. We sold those, bought more tools and more stuff, built more, and here I am today in San Francisco. Yeah, then later the bags came along, and they came along because there was an expensive, complicated machine that could do the same. It cost a fortune to send, and being a tailor, it wasn't too difficult how to hang a screen in the water at a certain level. And I sewed up the first bag. Anything else you want to know?
Got questions for Mila or anybody else on our panel?
I just gotta say, we love Mila very much. We go back 10 years in Amsterdam, 2 American guys, and we use her bags too. We use Mark's bags also. We're friends with a lot of people in this industry, and Mila's always been there for us, and we're always there for Mila, so I pay tribute to you and I love you.
I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been back and forth.
I'm also about the no profit. Does that mean all income is classified as cost of materials and labor?
Wow, okay, so this thing, he's asking a question about profit. He's saying no profit. So, like I said, I was recently hired on this case where they had 3,000 plants and 250 pounds of cannabis. And the case was dismissed right before it went to trial. So that was something that we spent a long time looking. In the civil code, there's no definition of profit. So we had to look at it. And what our understanding and our stance that we took on profit was when you have a corporation and it has a corporate shield around it, that money belongs to the corporation. And what we understand as profiting as an individual from medical cannabis using corporation is when money was taken from that corporation and put into a director's pocket as just proceeds that the corporation had made. Now when we looked at it and we saw like, oh, this person's turning in a time card, they have a job description, they have a salary, or they have an hourly rate, that wasn't profits being taken from the corporations being put into an individual's pocket. That was payroll. That was something that like every single other company does in America, and that's pretty much the way that people in this industry that are successful, that have been my clients for over 4 years, or over 5 years that I've been in business now, and the successful businesses do it. They pay people with payroll, with W-2 payroll, check, things that come out, they file 940s and 941s. If you don't know what these are, it's really great if you want to be a successful business to figure them out and make sure that you're paying people properly.
My question was on sales tax. Because they say that you're setting up so you can pay your sales tax, but you're not supposed to make profit. You're making contributions and reimbursements.
Yeah, so your question was about sales tax.
Yeah.
Well, in California, the Board of Equalization, maybe 10 years ago, ruled that even though it is a nonprofit business, that they have to pay sales tax. So in 2010, when I came to Buds and Roses, they were charging like $45 out the door. And we installed, financial software and things like that where it would print on the receipt. And we went 1 or 2 years, and you could probably look it up, with bad reviews for trying to get rich by charging sales tax. Well, the thing was, we don't charge sales tax. We collect it and we give it to the state. So that's what's necessary in California. And I might as well, while I have the mic, say I have a similar story with Mila. And back in like '99, when we were there at the Cannabis Cup with my best friend and still partner with me, Cushman Tyler Wadley, we had checked out of our hotel. We had a bunch of luggage. We were kind of wandering the streets. We were tired. We had smoked a lot of cannabis, and we came across Mila in her shop. And she just was like the sweetest woman in the world. She took us in, she showed us things, she told us take a load off, sit at the table, relax. And it was beautiful. It was basically wrapped up my experience in Amsterdam. So thank you for that. Thank you.
So just to clarify a little bit more on the sales tax, the state of California has this agency called the Board of Equalization. And they're the people that every time you go buy something for $10 and you really pay $10.97, the 97 cents, or the $10.97. The sales tax gets remitted to them. And what they have a view is that when you have a sales tax license, you are a steward of the state of California, and you're collecting that money. It's not sale, it's not profit, it's not part of your income. It actually doesn't even show up on a business's profit and loss statement. It goes straight to the balance sheet, to a liability account, because you actually, as a business owner, are collecting that money, and you have a liability to remit it to the state of California. Furthermore, the state of California has deemed that when cannabis exchanges hands, that is a transfer of tangible personal property. And when tangible personal property is transferred in California in that manner, they deem it as a taxable occurrence has happened. Now, there are people that are fighting cases that believe that that they're providing a service, and that they don't have a transfer of taxable personal property. And those are more complex situations that I can't get into right here on the stage today, but that's something that you might hear about that might confuse you. And that's where you really need to hire an expert who understands, and if that's a route, you need to understand the liability you could be setting yourself up at, and you really need to understand what's supposed to be written on your receipt. It's fine to say that the eighth is $50 out the door, but you want to have the breakdown that shows that really that eighth is probably $45.41, and that remaining $4.56 that you're collecting goes to the state of California as sales tax. And if you tell your patients that sales tax is included in the out-the-door price, it's legal. But if you're just selling eighths for $50, no sales tax, that's not legal in the state of California right now.
All right, we probably have time for one more question.
So right at the beginning, I was working at Berkeley Patients Group. So the question was, what about edibles, because they're a food product? And so that's where you have to think about it, and you have to, Berkeley Patients Group had that idea, and so they got their expert lawyer that had been an attorney working for the Board of Equalization, and they researched the issue. And for a while, they tried to fight the Board of Equalization, but the liability became too great, and the Board of Equalization views that the sales tax applies to food items because they have a cannabis contained within them. There's a lot of interesting laws around sales tax and food items that I can't get into, but just talking about Mila's shop, if you've never been there, I just highly recommend that you go. It's so cute. She's got all these little plants growing, and it's like, usually you're there in November for the Cannabis Cup, and it's like really cold, and it's like snowing and rain, and if you're from Northern California, it's like foreign, this like cold you don't understand, and you're wearing like a scarf and a hat. Go into a shop, and there's like these low-level fluorescent lights, so it kind of reminds you of like being at home and at your friends' houses, and there's all these little plants growing, and like there's all sorts of different kinds of plants, and like all these cannabis strains, and all these posters and information, and I guess it's a part of me little love fest of maybe Karen wants to get a Mila story or two. So yeah.
I gotta also say, like, walking into Mila's shop, her product, her bags are found all over the world. Okay, so you walk in her shop, and there's a wall, and on this wall is hash from everywhere those bags have been. So you have, and people send it. It's not illegal for what you receive in the mail. So she's gotten hash from all over the world. It's a great vibe in her shop. She sold me my first ever poppy seeds. They never stopped growing because they're like one of the hardest plants in the world to stop growing. Is in her seeds. Mila's a legend, and I have much respect.
I need one more story. All right, just Aaron's store in Amsterdam is really awesome because there's some people in there that really love hash, and if you go in maybe one day out of the year, there's this like sweet stack hash that's like totally white and clear, and they smoke it with you at the shop. It's not for sale. They share it with you there, and it's awesome, and it's definitely one of the shops in Amsterdam I'd love to visit along with Mila's.
Thank you very much. You guys are all welcome in my shop.
All right. We love Mila too, Camila. Everybody, if you haven't come, all of Mila, exactly. Everybody come to Amsterdam for the Cannabis Cup and visit. All of us really should. I want to thank our business panel for all of your amazing answers and advice. And, it's up to you guys. Be productive pot people. Be awesome. And thanks for coming to our panel. Give the last word. Thank you, everybody.